Hopefully y'all are ready for a good show. We got a special guest. I will introduce him. We're talking about modern music here, the importance of culture and how it's defined and how it can inform music production here, audio technology and music tech in general. And we're also going to get deeper into like these realms of music production and talk about some of the lost arts and lost science behind things like hip hop and music production. So I'm excited about this. It's going to be a good show. So hopefully you got your coffee, your tea. We're going to be doing that for the next hour or so. So I'm looking forward. I am looking forward to this conversation with Langston. If you can't hear me for any reason, let me know in the chat. But we are on a new platform, so appreciate y'all for working with us as we work out any type of issues and whatnot. We're gonna let a few more people come up inside of the stream before we get started. Then I will acknowledge the chat as we do normally, and then we'll get to it, man. But man, I hope y'all having a blessed week so far, man. Hopefully y'all getting a lot of music and other stuff done this week. Yeah, man. More to come on my side. I gotta. We're gonna do the after show at 8:30 Central Time. So about an hour and a half from now, we'll go over to Twitch. A lot of updates on my side in the studio. Won't get to that in this session, but yes. I'm excited about where we're going with this platform and also what we're doing in the studio as well. So more to come on that, man. But before we get into the stream, make sure that if you're not already subscribed to this channel, subscribe to this channel. If you are into this type of content, music production oriented content, make sure you hit the like button and share this with a friend. It helps us to get visibility in the platform and helps us to grow and get the message out there, man. And during today's session, we will be taking actually some questions and whatnot from our members. So if you're not already a member, I do recommend that you consider becoming a member of our membership, which is the True Sound Creators membership. And I'll explain what that is. This is our community, and you can access different aspects of this community, including over 80 hours of archival music production content. There's often live chats and other types of members-only content that goes exclusively in there. As I mentioned, for this show, we took questions directly from the community. And that's what's going to be prioritized in the show is the questions of the community. So if you're not a True Sound Creator, consider becoming a member. We have 3 different levels: True Sound Creator Plus, and Studio Guest Pass 4K. As you can see, the different perks and different opportunities here. We do have a lot of great partners like MSX Sound Design, Snipe Young, Divided Soul. So there's a lot of products and other opportunities there. And also, True Sound Creators get access to a special discount on my ebook, The Sound Mind. So I do recommend that you check that out. But yeah, man, let's get to the chat. Let me see where y'all at in the chat. Let me pull up this chat here. What y'all on, man? Shout out to my moderator, Upbeat Media, as always, for holding down the stream. Make sure that y'all follow the instructions of Upbeat Media, as they will be providing links and any other information that is pertinent to this stream. And also, just keep it cool in the chat, man. We got a very dignified, respectable guest here. Someone that should be very well respected here. So I expect that y'all, show them respect, and no hateration will be tolerated. But my community is cool, man. I ain't worried about that. Y'all good, man. But check out what Upbeat Media is saying, and if you get out of line, of course, Upbeat Media gonna put you in timeout. That's what it is. Let me see who's up in here. Shamir Shine, what's going on with you? A true sound creator. I appreciate you for tapping in. Salute. Best Korean Jesus, what's going on with you, fam? My bro, Jared Jackson, what's good, man? West Coast, yes, sir, man. Jared Jackson, yeah, Jared Jackson used to be up on the Gear Sluts forums with us as well. We got a couple Gear Sluts alumnus in here, so shout out to Jared Jackson. That's my bro though. Like he has helped me a lot over the years, man. Appreciate you, bro. Christopher Lamont, what's going on with you, man? He said YouTube throwback. Okay, classic Winter Nam 2009. Dang, okay, that's old school right there. 2009, yes sir. Wendell Summers was good. He said the amount of cringe on this is unreal. It's music gear. It's a tool trying to make something more important because you want it to be is really cringe and embarrassing. You're missing the point. Man, we ain't even got to the point yet, sir. I don't think you know what the conversation is, but you gonna find out. Yes, sir, man. I appreciate the comment, man. I mean, I don't think you know the context of the conversation yet to be able to say that, man. I'm sorry if you felt like the image that we use is triggering. Is meant to be. It's meant to be. It's meant to get your attention. So it got your attention. I appreciate you for tapping in, man. Joe Fire, what's good with you, man? Appreciate you. Another true sound creator. Kinera, what's good, fam? Appreciate you. The Observer of Thoughts, man. What's going on with you, fam? Coheed Studios, another true sound creator. What's good with you, fam? DM Khan, what's going on? What's going on? Yes. He said it's mad loud. Yeah. We are definitely on a new platform. So that's part of the growing pains here, but I appreciate y'all. Yeah, the music was loud. Get it, no, appreciate the super chat. Another true sound creator. Let's see here. Shamir Shine said, Don need to sponsor the live. True story. Lucrative Productions 5169. What's good with you, fam? I see Langston Masingale up in here. What's good? DJ Loop Beats, what's going on with you, man? I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Kevin M38, salute. Another true sound creator. William Ellington, another true sound creator, salute. Jay Johnson, what's good? Appreciate y'all, man. So we're gonna get into it, man. As I mentioned, we have a special guest. The guest that we have is none other than Langston Masingale, CEO of Handsome Audio, chief designer as well, owner and chief designer of LMI and LMI Designs. He is a Syracuse native who started working in recording studios at the age of 16 in his uncle's studio in New Jersey. Langston is a record producer and inventor, a leading member of the Goonies hip hop group, and a successful recording engineer. And his credits include Ronnie Spector, Mustafa Shakir, the Shirelles, the Marvels. So Langston is very one of a kind. He's an extraordinary person. He formed the company JJ Audio Mics in 2009. In 2014, he invented the core technology of his tape emulation product, Zulu. He formed Handsome Audio in 2015 and officially brought Zulu, the world's first passive analog tape simulator, to market in 2017. I got mine in 2018. So yes, man. Yes, sir. Handsome Audio is a Black-owned MI recording studio technology company and is the first of its kind in the world. That's huge, man. That's the type of people I like to have on this show, man. In 2022, Langston also launched LMI, Langston Masingale Industries, which is the world's first Black-owned audio transformer company. That's big business right there. Based in Syracuse, New York, along with LMI Designs, which designs and sells revolutionary audio recording equipment. Langston holds a bachelor's degree in philosophy, informal logic, and a minor in computer science. Yes, sir, man. That's that Nesby squad. Salute. Langston also teaches electronics engineering at Syracuse University as part of the STEP program. He's a big deal. I'm happy to have him on the show, man. So welcome y'all, Langston Masingale. Salute,
What's up,
man.
everybody? How you doing? Welcome.
Appreciate you, man. It's good to have you, bro.
Yeah, man, it's great to be here. It's always just good to connect with new audiences, to share my stories, to give insight to things, and so I'm just really blessed to be around. You know what I mean, and have this opportunity just to get with y'all, to fellowship, to share, to build, to learn. You know what I mean, and to spread that knowledge because that's what hip hop is all about,
There it is. There it
flat
is.
out.
That's it. Now I appreciate you, man. We've been, crossing paths, and I know I told you I got the Zulu in 2018,
Hmm.
but I've been, talking to EA Ski about what you're doing and all that stuff. So he's always spoken highly of you. I used to also catch some of what you would do on MG the Future stream sometimes, man. So I'm definitely familiar with what you do. So salute, man.
Hmm.
It's great to have you on. And yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. We already done had a few calls, and like, boy, yeah, wealth of
Yeah.
knowledge, man, wealth of knowledge.
Hmm.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
But yeah,
likewise, bro.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Likewise.
But yeah, today we're talking about modern music gear and culture. That's kind of the anchor point of the conversation. And me and you had some conversations already about this, and you had some really good points, and it inspired this whole topic. I think some people are seeing the stream right now, and they're seeing a piece of gear that they're familiar with. I think that's more coincidental than anything because that piece of gear came out after we had already decided on what we were talking about. I think that it just is case in point of how culture can inform product design.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I want to get your thoughts on that because I think we were saying that there's some things that are missing in the market as far as just like the way that that's being leveraged right now. So I want to get your perspective. Like, why does music gear today lack culture in your opinion? Or
Well,
or does it? I should ask.
I think that in particular, because I can speak for myself, I don't want to speak for other people, but as a person that's been a participant in hip hop culture since pretty much their childhood, um, I think when it relates to like our music, equipment now does not necessarily integrate our culture into it in the way that it should, right? Like there are ways to exploit culture, but then there's also ways to holistically include culture in the way that you do things. And so I feel like there's a portion of this where the people who actually are the architects of the various movements of hip hop, because there's the founding architects and then there's the next consecutive generations of them. Part of the issue I have is that we are the vanguards of our culture, right? And so if our culture informs the way that technology is used, it would make a lot of sense, strictly from an academic standpoint, but also from an engineering standpoint, to incorporate, like, okay, uh, like the same way that like a bicycle changed to be better once we started racing them, right? So we started making lighter bicycles and we noticed the way that people cycle on the bike. So they rock it back and forth a certain way. And so they started trying to find lighter and lighter materials that were rigid, but also made it where you can go faster and more aerodynamic, right? You would think that that would be employed when we make the better beat machine.
Mm,
They would go to the people who have developed these techniques, these strategies and these routines and said, how do you make a beat?
yeah,
What do you listen for first? What are the things that make your thing good, right? And instead, it's still kind of like the pilgrims with the natives. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's still
absolutely.
like you live over here and we're over there, but we need you, but we only come to take and give the least amount back so that we can go and now be like, yeah, we have beans and corn on Thanksgiving too. And it's like, well, where did that come from?
Right.
Whose idea was that to make succotash? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like True story, right? So like
Mm,
there's this ideology there where like as long as we can get people to give up their culture for free, we don't owe them anything in return. But to someone's detriment, it's like simply looking at a treasure map and not realizing that there's alligators and mermaids and sea monsters along the way. Because if you live there, you knew that. But because you don't, that's why your ship is at the bottom of the ocean with the octopus, the giant octopus and the giant squid. You understand what I'm saying? So
mhm.
I feel like that's where, like, in some of our previous conversations, we talked about the stagnancy in equipment development. Well, there you go,
Yeah.
right? The further and further you get away from the source, the more diluted and the more diffracted everything becomes, and eventually it peters out.
Mm, mm.
And so
No, that
that's why
that
culture is important in
yeah,
that
that
regard.
no, that I can dig that. I think what I found interesting about your company is that there are definitely some culturally coded aspects of it that are very prominent, and then maybe some of them that are maybe like not as prominent that I think people should know about. But how does culture inform the equipment that you've been designing?
Well, um, to condense it into something that's easy to digest, uh, making hip hop music requires various skill sets that are all very highly technical, right? But they're informed with a cultural compass that, helps to like carve that into something that's very uniquely part of hip hop culture, especially like the innovations and genius of African Americans and what they did to found hip hop, along with the participation of, Afro Caribbean people, Latino people, Afro Latino people, Asians in that regard too. But at the core of it, there's the African American ingenuity, which can't be overlooked, right? So like some of the things that we do when we're making hip hop is not even discussed at all in other genres, such as how to make things off on
Mm,
purpose is a big one,
mm,
right? Like everybody turned into Dilla clones at one point in time, even though that represents like 1% of Dilla's sound, right?
yeah, yeah.
Everybody had to figure out how to get that shika, shiki, shika, shiku. They had to figure it out. And a lot of it had to do with basically effing up the way the timing algorithm works inside a beat machine to get that to do that.
Mm,
Or we would do it by hand. So those sorts of things in other settings would look extremely inappropriate, right? And yet, in our culture, in our context, it makes perfect sense to do that because the offness is the flavor, the
yeah,
offness is the sazon,
yeah.
right? And so, if we don't tune into that, it's like the oxtails just aren't as tender. You
Mm-hmm,
know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
And like the neck don't snap as hard, and the people don't get as animated. So like, and because there's like that catalyst there, right? Because they're that catalyst of the emotional result of that very technical approach to making a beat, then in turn it influences the griot,
Mm,
right? So like it's like it sounds like magic, but it's kind of like when I watched Black Panther and I saw him ingest the purple plant and unlock these magical powers that he had, right?
yeah,
That's what it's like to use those techniques in the studio from a hip hop cultural context and unlock new superpowers that the MC didn't even know they had because the beat is tapping in to something that's subconscious, whether it's deeply rooted in the pineal gland somewhere or, otherwise stimulated by other forces in the universe. The bottom line is like we're 50% sorcerers and alchemists
mm,
and the other half high-minded scientists and
mm,
highly technical artisans, right? Like when we study cultures that we consider dead, right, that are gone, one of the things that you learn about when you study culture, right, is you evaluate cultures by the work of the artisans, right? Ooh, these are the first people we found that spun clay pots in the Middle East. And so therefore they must be using highly advanced techniques to do X, Y, and Z to get this result, right?
yeah,
Well, let's take it to now where we look at hip hop. The people that make the music, the people that operate the studios, they're the artisans, right? And so these are people whose techniques and approaches to using technology are highly informed by the cultural references and callbacks to things that, for example, like you'll be in the studio and people will be like, I don't want this to sound like a Curtis Blow record, right? And you're like, Lynn Drum Machine, you know what I'm saying, AKJ 414 microphone, very tight vocal sound, right? Like it pulls out these technical references from your mind,
Yeah.
but there's a cultural call out to it where, because of how we represent in the American framework as African American, Afro Latino, Afro Caribbean people, our culture now in the modern age, in the age of modernity, is highly tied to technology.
Yeah.
And so for me, without that piece attached to this conversation, it not only does a disservice to our culture, but it's a lie without it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
You need the whole story.
Yeah.
Otherwise, somebody is simply taking a piece of equipment and putting blackface on it. You know, and that's digital minstralism, and that's what we're being
Yes.
subjected to now with AI and everything else. And it's like you see how that's being exploited in ways that harm us, right? We're thinking about things right now that we weren't even thinking about 5 years ago, all the time now.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff that was not in our minds has now been shifted, right? Where people were once thinking about opening businesses and how do you put your house in a trust so when you die, your kids don't pay taxes on a $400,000 property that you never intended for them. Now we're popping balloons. Now we're watching people run off with food stamps, like, and it's like half the time the content is fabricated, right? More like 75% of the time. So like the fact that somebody knows how to tap into your culture and speak to your worst being also means they know how to speak to your best being. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they
Absolutely.
found those bits and pieces of you and they decided to do that rather than hey, let's go talk to these people that are still alive, by the way. And you know,
Yeah.
and tap in with them
Yeah.
and get their advice and get their perspective on things. There's so much to that. We could spend 4 hours just talking about what's been lost in the fire
For
that
sure.
actually we rescued. You know what I mean? Like if you watch Lovecraft Country, she gives Jesse's character the Bible, right? And that Bible unlocks their ability to defeat evil, metaphorically, reality in the framework of the storyline, etc. But well, we have a Bible in hip hop. We have a Bible of how to do things and what the path is and how these journeys will take us from here to there. This is what we used to have to do, and now we do this instead. But did we lose something along the way? So it's not like that information is dead. It's just that it's not being leveraged for whatever reason. But I feel like it harms all of it in the long run. And that, so when people say, oh, there's only so much money left in it, actually, no, you can only exploit 1 micron of an idea for so long before it just peters out.
Deep. That last point, very, very potent, actually. And that could be a whole different conversation, actually. But I just want to make sure. I want to kind of circle back to like the genesis of the Zulu, and why is it called Zulu, first of all, and like how was that, like how was that informed by like culture?
Well, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I got the end of the 70s and obviously all of the 80s. And there was this amazing miniseries that came on TV one year called Shaka Zulu. And Shaka Zulu, Unkosi, right? And he was like this feared, powerful brother that was not only like strong in the physical sense, but he was mentally strong, right? And was someone who had spears and sandals. Well, actually, no, they got rid of their sandals. Excuse me. They had shields and spears and military strategy employed in formations that were able to, like, at many points in the British Empire's history, when they're trying to colonize South Africa, they were giving these people the business. They had cannons, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And men with spears and mines were, you know what I mean? Like, and they were like, we got to do something about the Zulus, right? And so when I thought about that, when I was trying to come up with a name for this technology that was meant to, in many ways, curate and preserve, right, why music sounds the way that it sounds in our framework, like how we think and imagine that music is supposed to sound, I began to kind of do like an internal self-analysis of like, okay, excuse me, well, the music industry exists, and I'm not afraid to say this, right? I'm sure there are many people who will want to debate with me because it threatens them. The reason that we have a music industry is because of people that look like me and you. You know that,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Like people showed up and said, "Hey, we're making recordings for the library. Do you mind if we record you on your porch?" And then they would run off and go print records and sell them, and maybe give you a glass of liquor for your time on the porch, right? Like they literally developed an entire business model around our pain, our suffering, our oppression, right? Our musical and art and artistic expression through that, and they turned it into a way to commodify it. And so when I thought about it, I was like, well, dang, I wonder, besides when the Americans stole magnetic tape from the Nazis, right? Which is, of course, isn't that the American way? We steal technology and then we say we did something with it. When they turned analog tape into a much more widely used medium in the West, I'm thinking in the back of my head, I've always wondered if like some of the first recordings on tape weren't Black people on their porches in the South, right? And I'm like, I'm looking at these old records that I used to have, like Lead Belly, right? And I forget his name, something Lemon, right? And there are these really old archival recordings of Black pastors who are singing gospel and Black bluesmen from way back in the day. And I'm like, man, analog tape and Black music are married together in a very unique way, because it isn't long after that that the race records begin to circulate on radio once we get AM radio in America. And it isn't that much longer after that before we get the jazz movement, right? Before we get blues, right? And then between jazz and blues and gospel, you get rock and roll with Little Richard, right? But you get Elvis. So when I kept looking at this, I'm like, this is actually us, right? It's actually, this medium reflects our collective genius. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it actually represents, in many ways, like it said that, people have, stereotype Native Americans as saying that photographs steal your spirit. Well, analog tape in many ways took our auditory essence and disseminated that on a large level across the world.
Yeah.
Right. And those analog tape recordings influenced every musician in the world. Right. Like you wouldn't have the Beatles if it wasn't for Willie Horton and Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with the Rolling Stones. I could go on, but my whole point is that the reason I named it Zulu was that you have like one of the baddest Black mofos in the world in the history of war, right? Besides Hannibal, right? And I'm looking at analog tape, and I'm looking at how, despite all the things that happened to those bluesmen, where they were getting paid pennies for their songs and they were being exploited from the beginning and robbed, right? And how even when hip hop first came out, how like those artists were used that way, right? And how they're used that way now, right? I looked at it, I'm like, and yet we persevere. We continue to keep making this amazing music and keep spreading these messages and keep manifesting, right? And I'm like, analog tape and Black music are the same thing. And so when I look at like the unwillingness to falter, right? And then I looked at Shaka Zulu, and now, even now, how in South Africa, they talk about the Zulu spirit and the power of Shaka Zulu. When Mandela is talking about Shaka Zulu, right? It's like, that's us.
Yeah.
Right? That's us. In my travels, South Africans have always been the ones who are the most down with African Americans. Like they they don't play that, like we don't know anything about racism.
No, they got a similar struggle for sure.
Nope.
Yes.
So that was like my love letter to like all things Black that are special and valid in music. And then beyond that, what was the cultural note that informed Zulu? Well, the first thing I ran through Zulu wasn't a sine wave. It was, can Zulu replicate an 808 a certain way, the way that I used to hear it come off of a tape machine? Can Zulu replicate what happens when you drive a 909 snare into overdrive and you start clipping and getting massaged by the analog tape along with the electronics in the machine, right? Like that was the litmus test. It wasn't just does it replicate the square wave at 100 kilohertz? You know, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
because that's been done before, right? But the point is that, and I know that this is going to sound a little bizarre coming from me, but this is the way I used to buy equipment. Was like, okay, let me bring my beat machine to the Guitar Center, and I'm going to plug it into this magic box that y'all want me to buy. And the first question I have is, why does everything below 150 hertz sound like it's not really doing anything?
Where's it at?
Where is the bass at?
Right.
I'm not making a Metallica record, right? I want to be able to have something that can replicate R&B just as handily as it can replicate hip hop music. So like, it had to handle the bass. It had to handle the dynamic range of all of the things that were, you know, special to me. They were like, you know, on some level, the way a drum beat is supposed to sound is just as much technical as it is cultural for me, right? Like, if it's not making me do this, then I'm kind of like, nope, nope, pass, right? So like, I was developing hip hop, Zulu, from the aspect of, if I hand this to another hip hop producer, right, it has to pass the vibe check.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Yes. And this is what's really dope, because I approached it from that angle. Because I approached it from that angle, it is absolutely fantastic for every other genre. So why is Zulu so popular in indie rock? Why is Zulu so popular in folk music? Why is Zulu so popular with regular old rock and roll? Because it works excellently there, but at the core of it is hip hop. So if it didn't do the thing for hip hop, I don't care what it sounds like on Steely Dan. It had to sound right. So if I was going to make a Bomb Squad record, right? So when like Hank Shock Lee heard it, he's like, oh yeah, like, this is what I was hearing. You know, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, we need to kind of get back into that mind frame of like, we should be the one saying yay or nay to how something sounds, right? Just like the old man in the 5 Heartbeats, right? If you don't get past him, you ain't getting on stage. And that's what it kind of needs to come back. We need to start actually having ownership of our culture and being staunch in our beliefs. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying, look, I make this for a living. This is my life. I've been doing it for, I mean, my God, I've been involved in some shape or fashion of hip hop music since I was 7. I'm 48 years old now. I think 41 years of experience counts for something.
It does.
In the conversation of how something should sound, how it should make you feel, how it should make you react, how you use it, right? Because 9 years later, I was making hip hop music from a technical standpoint, right? So like, all those things informed it. Even the way Zulu is laid out, where it's laid out more like a musical instrument than it is laid out like a piece of equipment. Well, we would take things that were just pieces of equipment and turn them into musical instruments. And MPC-60 wasn't made for us.
Right.
We adopted it. MPC-60 is the first thing that got invited to the cookout, besides the Lindrum and, you know, all these other devices. We took it and made it for us because it was originally made to accompany guitar players.
Yes.
Right. So there's nothing wrong with taking that same mindset and saying, well, what if you just took a piece of equipment that was for us, by us? What do you do then? Right. And so that's what Zulu represents. It's like, somebody finally from the camp broke free and said, I want to get into equipment.
Right.
And so that's where you have it. You know what I mean? And plus, like, you know, recall, being able to get the same sound every day, no matter what.
Yes.
All of that is involved in that.
Yeah. That's dope. And you kind of touched on the next topic I wanted to transition to. You are already there, but you said this to me before, and it really resonated with me tough, man. It really touched me, and I want to capture that again and like try to get the perspective that you're coming from. And I think you covered some of it now, but you said to me, hip hop is the most technical genre of all genres. And I that perspective really, it did something to me. I was like, you know what? We're undervaluing what we do. And I want you to talk about that a bit more. Like how is hip hop the most technical genre?
Well, I mean, on the most basic of levels, you got to be really effing smart to right? Like, you got to be really smart to make hip hop music. Like, I really wish we would kill this idea of like somebody just comes in there and just like thugs it out on a drum machine. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, let me just put my hat on backwards and I'm just going to will the power, you know, bang, 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 bang. Like, nah, like this is an art form that is full of learned doctors, basically, right? in terms of our PhD is in crafting computer music, right? It is a computer-based art form, right? And what I mean by that is these are music production computers, MPC, right? So with a manual this thick, right? And we would go in there, and that's why like the nerds, you know what I mean? Like that's why like the you know what I'm saying, little young boy over there, but he's real sharp. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take him in the studio and see what he can do. You know what I mean? If anybody can figure it out, my nephew can, right? That type of stuff is not by coincidence. That's by design, right? Like I said, like the brother that made Slipper, my man Mike Shock Gomez, man, he works at the UN now in the audio technical department, man. Like he transitioned from Rough Riders to the UN. This is not a stupid person, right? But none of us are. That's racism, bro. Like that's people telling you that you're not smart. That's people. I'm like, okay, then you put your dang guitar down and you come in here and you figure out a dot matrix screen with 8 characters on it, and you tell me where Aretha Franklin says yes I do at in them numbers, right? Because I was in the studio with calculators, mathematical equations, BPM versus quarter notes and all of that stuff, because Unc was on that, right? I was in that world of programming a computer just to get a sound out of it, right? And though, yes, there is a highly technical skill associated with playing a guitar a certain way or drums and all of that, you don't need to turn on a computer to play drums. You don't need to know how to use a computer to play drums. You just need to know how to do this the right way, right? And have limb independence and be ambidextrous and all of that stuff. I get that. I respect that. I love players. But y'all not built for this. You know what I'm saying? Like this is different. And I can always tell when somebody who's not from hip hop culture makes hip hop, because their approach to it always has to kind of go back to their roots, which is in another place, right? So their whole approach to things is different. Their whole attitudes, their whole expectation of what needs to happen, right? Like they'll be like, "Yep," it's like Don Cheadle and Boogie Nights. Like, "Yep, that's a drum beat." Right? You feel that bass? You know, like that's what you get. And it's like there's a chunk of that part of it missing. We're like, we didn't just get on the beat machine and make beats. We got into it. Right. And then I hate to say this, but in a way, the reason they kept making these machines easier to use was not for us. Right? Y'all know that, right? It was not for us. You understand what I'm saying? Because we were good. I mean, come on! Like people out here were using SP1200s like it was nobody's business, getting busy, right? Same thing with the MPC, every iteration of it. Then one day somebody said, "Wouldn't it be great to see the waves on the screen?" You got to ask yourself, like, bro, I used to have to sit there on the turntable and look at a piece of tape spin around, right, and be like, "You see me? Right, like that," and be like, "Okay." And then hit the MPC at the same time to trigger it, because I didn't want to sit there for 5 hours looking at a number, trying to figure something out. So I would synchronize the sampling time. I would figure that out and then look at that screen and be like, okay, boom, and then figure it out on the record. But then there's like, nah, just look at the waveform. And you can see the peak that's James Brown's voice doing that. And I'm like, but who is this getting made easy for? Because we mastered that. We mastered speeding up the record to increase the sample time. We mastered all that. Get the record player that can do 78 RPMs at the garage sale or whatever. Use grandma's Denon, right? We learned all of that stuff, and again, used it through technology. So before Pro Tools, got to think about this. Before Pro Tools, before Radar, we were on MPCs and could not do anything without that MPC because there was no Apple computer to turn on. There was no mouse. It was your fingers, a jog wheel, your brain. I don't know how to do that. Let me look it up. Oh, ASDR envelope. Okay, let me go into the submenus and find that. All of that just to get your kick to go boom. That was it.
Right.
So we were engaged in things that were both a combination of computer age music, but also the computing age. Like hip hop was one of the first generations to really have computers or computer-like thinking at their fingertips, right? And so that is why our music is so highly technical and advanced at the same time, because the prerequisite of just being able to create it requires you to learn very highly technical things, right? I know plenty of musicians that don't know how to use computers, but they can play their behinds off on an instrument. Whereas me, I got to know how to use a computer. I got to know how to build a computer. I got to know how to fix a computer, upgrade the RAM, right? Like that mystery bridge between IT and hip hop beats is crazy. Because I'm sure you know 5 brothers right now that have IT backgrounds or have IT know-how that also have a studio, right? Like it's like, hello. It's because we basically had the computer with us the whole time. It was just, it had drum pads on it. So that's why I say to people, like, stop speaking of yourself as just a beat maker. Stop thinking of yourself as just the guy who makes beats, because that's what those people have told you, so that you can, you know, because now you're looking back at the people who are not on top, right? Cats who play guitar are not on top. People that do this are on top, right? You want to talk about all music? If 35% of all social media in the world uses hip hop music, baby, that ain't Taylor Swift.
Right.
That ain't Led Zeppelin.
Right.
That's the Fat Boys. That's T-Pain.
Wow.
So why are you unimportant again? Because still there's that social economic crapola that's churning around in there, where it's like, okay, yes, these people are making us billions of dollars, but don't let them get too high-minded of an idea, because God forbid the people that are actually the reason we're rich feel good about themselves while they make us rich.
Man.
Right? Don't forget, if you're on a streaming platform, even if you're not making any money, they're making money off you.
Absolutely.
Because people still go to their platform to listen to you, even if you only got 5 spins a month. Somebody had to pay to get on there or go through advertisements to get to your music.
Yep.
Message.
Yep.
So, you know, think higher of yourself. Give yourself, you know what I'm saying, put that battery back in your back, man. Like, stand up straight like your mom said and put your shoulders back. Because that's who you are. You feel me?
Yes.
You're nothing less than that. Never.
Yeah. No, man, that's real talk, man. And it was interesting listening to like some of the technical stuff you were talking about, like how we used to be able to like really make music without seeing the waveforms and being able to look at records. And I remember working with Q-Tip, and Q-Tip is amazing at needle dropping, like
shout out to Tip, man.
Crazy at needle dropping, right? And it just reminded me, like you were talking about, like tacit knowledge that has kind of been escaping the community. I want to get into like the importance of that, and like what are some tacit studio concepts that you think modern music producers aren't using today?
Oh my gosh. One of them is informed by analog tape. When we would record to tape back in the days, we didn't use noise reduction because it sounded like crap, right? Plus you had to buy noise reduction. So if you didn't have like the right noise reduction, it might not sound good. Plus, like if anything ever had to go from one studio to the next, you had to make sure that they had the right type of system as well. So a lot of it's just recorded really hot to tape, but you still get some degree of latent hiss, right? So here's a great technique. You could try this with or without a tape simulator, but I like it with the tape simulator. You take a waveform. So in this case, we'll call it a sample. So it could be like a kick drum or a snare, right? And you run that into hiss, right? And then through some kind of gain stage. So it could be a tape simulator like Zulu. It could be a microphone preamp or whatever. So now it's going through there smacking like crack, 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 right? But there's what we would do back in the days is we would take a gate and put it after that, right? And the gate would have an unnatural cutoff on the drum, right? And so because of that, right, because of that unnatural cutoff, some of the hiss would get through, right? And years later, you learn about using white noise to add definition to drums, right? Well, we were doing it out of necessity, but it always gave our drums a little bit of an edge. And we were using the DBX gates. So they're fast. They have a little bit of something going on. They were like, you know, they had a little bit of analog vibe to them. You know, old DBX stuff is amazing. Go on Reverb and buy it. Like it's disgusting.
I got mine. You convinced
me. but those gates would cut off, and you'd have to set it the right way, but they would cut off, and so it'd be right. So because of that, you would get this this effect of extra definition. But because the gate was being used so quickly, it would also distort, and so it would add an extra layer of THD. So it was like excitement for a microsecond on the drum. But that's part of the sound of those records, is that you're like, wait a minute, how do these people not use this or not use that? We slap a this compressor on the drums and an 1176 on that and all this other stuff. And yet these people, like my studio, we had like one, maybe two DBX compressors, and we never put anything on the mix. And a lot of times they weren't used like that. We just used volume, right? We'd use volume and we'd use EQ. And then the gate, if we use that did the rest. But that's one technique. Another one that I picked up along the way that I've integrated into my stuff a lot, that, when you start talking to like some of these other producers, they do all types of, I call it going commando, where you do stuff that looks crazy to the average person, but it works. So like one of them is something that I stole from Bruce Sweetein, where Bruce Sweetein, by the way, is the person that engineered all the Michael Jackson stuff, at least the the early classic stuff like Off the Wall, Thriller, right? He would like have people, there's a lot of synthesizers on Michael Jackson's music, obviously brilliant stuff, right? So what he would do is he would take that synth that was dry, that was recorded direct, and then he would run it into the same space that like they might be tracking the drums for that record, right? And he would play the synthesizer over the speakers in the same place that they would record the drums, and then mic it and record it to another track on the board, on the tape machine, and mix some of that back into the dry synthesizer to give it depth.
Yeah.
Well, we don't necessarily have sessions all the time. We have live musicians and other people, right? But we all have monitors in our studio.
Yeah.
So you could turn on one monitor, right? Turn off one and mic it while it could be your drums. It could be your vocals. It could be your sample. You're adding depth because you're actually putting it in an acoustic space. And that's like a natural form of reverberation or delay. Yep. You can do all types of fun stuff with that, but all it does is it makes your stuff sound richer and have more depth and complexity to it. And these are just two things right there that anybody can do. They don't need to go buy special equipment. Even if you don't own a Zulu, you can do this stuff. Even if you don't own a big studio, you can do this stuff. But like that was encouraged. There's a great album cover before I close on this one. There's a great album cover of KRS-One where he's rapping into a headphone. How many people know that you can use headphones as a microphone? Right? And he did songs like that. This brother was like, like in the headphones, I can't, like he really, he really did that because he didn't have a mic. And that's, like those are things that have just been lost to people, is that we have all these powers and we don't use them on our music anymore. And they totally would work. It's not like they would have no place.
They totally work. You giving up some of the game, like some of the sound design stuff that I did for Yamaha was exactly like that Bruce Sweetein stuff you were just talking about, remiking. That I definitely used a lot of that on my drum sound design. So that's real talk, y'all. That's some great game, and I think that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of this stuff is getting lost because there's an abundance of like plugins and, different tools that kind of emulate things. So you don't have that experimental spirit with a lot of people now that are doing music, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on about that just because I don't know what your next question is, but I think that that is also part of the issue with the advancement of our music, is that what we're not kind of getting is that I kind of hinted at it in the point about how they keep making these machines easier to utilize, right? Yeah. So from a cultural context for an engineer, it's not a coincidence to me that people have figured out a way to homogenize. And on many levels, as I said, in one of my little journal entries, we now have a culture of influencers and content creators who are pasteurizing hip hop music, right? Where they're taking all of the good bacteria out in the attempt to make it easier for them to digest, right? So that the vocal, and you have to think about this. They're like, oh, your vocal needs to be here. Your drums need to be here. Your music needs to be here, right? And then you start to listen. It's like, yeah, except everybody's drums are here. Right. Everybody's vocals are here. Everybody's vocals are compressed this way. And they're like, well, that's the standard. I'm like, no, that's what y'all did so you could do it repeatedly, right? Because you couldn't figure out how to do it. Guess what? the original way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's like, can you mix a hip hop record that sounds like Run DMC right now? Right? Can you, right? Like, do you have like that mindset of I could do an old school hip hop record if I wanted to, or is it only going to be this type of record? Right? And part of that, to me, that feels a little bit on the level of like it's tone deaf, if you'll forgive the phrase, has to do with the following. I could not go to somebody else's culture and tell them that your musical expression needs to be compartmentalized and changed to fit this mold that I've developed as an outsider to your culture. If anything, you're a visitor, but at worst, you're a voyeur, right? Or a vulture, right? But you have somehow created the academic narrative of what this culture represents, kind of like a Key and Peele sketch where it's like, yes, I've been to the Gambia and this is what they're doing, right? Like, but it's like, but you're not actually from the Gambia. You're just an explorer visiting and telling people what you saw in the village. And then it's like the telephone game. Now it's like, oh, well, these drums are too loud for this and these drums are too loud for that. That is balderdash, right? Like I tell people this all the time. There is way too much validation seeking in counterculture-based music. Hip hop is a form not only of expression, but also rebellion, right? It's rebellious music. It is against the man. It's against society. It's against what people tell you is the right way to do things, or stop complaining about being poor, right? Like we can go on and on about who really invented hip hop music, but I'm going to tell you something. It started in the Bronx, because if it wasn't for the Bronx, this rap shit probably wouldn't be going on. So tell them where you're from, right? If you watch the Rubble Brothers documentary, these people were literally living in the rubble of the Bronx when it was falling to pieces, right? The Bronx is burning, right? All of that stuff. Yeah. How can you tell people that live in those conditions, right, how to express themselves? You can't, right? But that's what the culture is born out of. It's born out of a necessity. It's born out of a crying out, right? So back to the revolution, the rebelliousness, the revolutionary part. How can you form a revolution and then go to somebody that doesn't have a care in the world about what happens because of your revolution? Like, well, what do you think we should do? You know, do you really think we should use drums that sound like this to express ourselves?
Right.
What do you like this shade of red? You know what I'm saying? Do you like this flag? No. It's the whole point of revolution is to keep it a secret. It's not to invite people in that are going to infiltrate it, right? And it's to hold it sacred like it's a child of yours, to protect it, right? And because that spirit is missing, part of that protectionist mindset is where innovation comes from. Because it's like, all right, I want to make it bigger, better, badder. I want to do this. I want to do that. Because, I mean, I'm just going to be honest with the OGs, right? Did the money really matter in the end? Because we don't have nothing to show for it. Where's our schools? You get what I'm saying? Where's our housing that we you know what I mean? Like some of us came from the PJ. Some of us came from immense poverty. Yeah. And we used hip hop as a way to get out. But where's the things to show for all that we did and what we sold ourselves into, right? Yeah. And along the way, I mean, I shout out to my boy Rocky Bucano, who has the Hip Hop Museum in New York City. Like his journey is incredible, and like the efforts he's made and the fact that they got funding for it and all of that. And I'm like, yes, we have our own museum now. But like our culture is more than just something that somebody comes along and exploits. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily just talking about one shade of somebody. Like, so in case you want to go get into your feelings in the comments and all of that, and be like, well, I participate, blah, blah, blah. Listen, you can be a person that looks this way, okay, and still exploit a culture. You can exploit your own culture. You can still sell your culture off to the highest bidder. That's not, you know what I'm saying? Nobody is absolved of that. Yeah. Right. But I do feel like when you begin to try to just basically simplify something that's actually highly complex and highly like integrated into like the unspoken language of our cultures, especially hip hop culture, especially African American culture, that unspoken language, right? That same wellspring that spawned gospel music in the African American sense, and the Methodist churches, the AME church, and all of that, right? The same wellspring that spawned the blues, the same wellspring that spawned R&B, right? The same wellspring that spawned soul and funk and rock and roll, right? Is also the same crucible that hip hop came out of. Yes. Right. But we're letting somebody else tell the story for us. And so because of that, you're going to somebody that doesn't know what it's like to be in a cipher. Talk to you about what the music is supposed to sound like. I'm like, but until you go and sit there among 12 dudes and 2 girls, right? And everybody got to come with their best lyrics.
Right.
And earn that spot, right? And earn that respect from the gang and the crew. What are you talking to me about my music for? Like, you don't even want to go experience the things that we experience and still can right now. Like, there still are lyricist lounges. There's still, right? Like, these people have not, like, yeah, you might go to like this concert or that concert, but like, you're not going to the underground spot like that and hanging out with these people. You're not seeing what their lives are like. Like, some of these people are in there trying to literally change and alter the course of their destiny. And because you don't want to connect with them like that, all I can see is you just taking money. So therefore, I don't really care what you have to say, right? I tell people all the time, we didn't pick up the phone in the 90s and be like, yo, what you think it is? should I turn the hi-hat down?
Oh, God.
If we was on the phone, anybody was a pressing plan, bro. Like, it needed to go out because people liked it and they were feeling it. And that felt like it resonated with them, right? And we need to get back to that. Just release your music, dog. Like, stop trying to pass like this person's expectation of who you're supposed to be. That's what makes art art. You might not even live to see your appreciation happen, right? But you still got to do your thing, man. Like, how can we sit there and be like bigging up, rest in peace to him, amazing genius. How can we sit there and look at like this fierceness of D'Angelo and then not look at the fact that D'Angelo was hip hop coded?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? How can we not recognize that? Like, this is a person that was raised in our crucible, right? It's not a mistake that the people that work with D'Angelo were who they were.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake that you had Russell Elevato there, Questlove, many other people, Pino Palladino and people like that working on his music, Charlie Hunter. These people are hip hop coded.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we're losing sight of that. Like, there are people now who play rock music that grew up listening to number rap music.
Absolutely.
But we're not looking at ourselves saying, dang, like we should be dapping ourselves up. Like, you know, like instead of letting somebody else try to tell you what your stuff's supposed to sound like, just put it out.
Right.
And let that be part of the greater fabric instead of trying to fit somebody else's mold. Because at the end of the day, that's also why people are not digging your music. And here's another disturbing quote. 95% of all stream music is old. You heard it from me. They're not listening to new stuff like that. Why is that? You see what I mean? Why is that? Why did they keep going back to old black music? Why did the record companies keep trying to buy up old black catalogs? What's there is meant to be studied, analyzed, and accepted and respected. And until we start doing that, you get what you get.
Yeah.
The end.
Absolutely. Wow. That's man. I wish we had a lot more time to dig into this. We're gonna have to bring you back on to talk because
I'm seeing that red light in the private comments. Time check.
Yeah. No, you said a lot. You said a lot, and man, I think even though like hip hop and I would say art is not so much about getting people's approval on things, I will tell you, I just want to co-sign and stamp that the Zulu is something that has definitely transformed my capabilities in my studio, and it has allowed me to do a lot more of the things that I desire to do as far as like sound design and engineering. And it has become a vital part of like my process over the years. Like I've done drum sound design with it, but I've also like done like I've been playing some mixes for some of y'all now, and it's just like like this combination that I got now, it's where I want it to be, and it's doing what I want it to do, regardless of what anybody else say. When I hear it, it's like that's what I want it to sound like in the end. So I'm really inspired by what I'm getting out of the Zulu now, and I'm planning on doing some remasters of some of my my previous work with the Zulu. But I wanted to get from you specifically, like, what are some like, can you share like some success stories or anything like any good stories that you know about people that use the Zulu in their studio?
Well, for starters, big shout out to my brother Alan Evans, man. Love you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Hope all is well with you and the family. Alan is like super producer cat who definitely has like a beautiful bridge between growing up in like the 70s and 80s. So like he's kind of like the older brother to me in terms of your older brother that was listening to hip hop a little bit before you, but then went in a different direction, right? Because he grew up just as much on things like Beatles and Sly and the Family Stone as he did hip hop music, right?
Yeah.
So one of the stories, so Alan is the producer and drummer, among many other things, in a band called Soul Live. And Soul Live is like sick band out of Buffalo, New York, and you know, has done like huge things all over the world.
Raised
You
to
gotta
Bama.
look. Yeah. And one of the stories Alan shared with me about Zulu, which is incredible, is that he did a session with a band called Shakewell out of Missoula, right? And they went to the studio called Evergroove in Colorado, and they had a Soundcraft board, giant, large format console Soundcraft, right? And Alan put his Zulu. He only had one pair at the time. He only had a desktop unit at the time. He put it across the master bus, which fed the monitoring chain for the whole studio. So basically, he has Zulu across like his stereo master bus on his console, right? You could do this in the DAW too. And set up the mics and the levels in the studio for the band while they were like, you know, warming up or whatever. Set up the mics based on what sounded best through Zulu versus you just put stuff on and, you know, hopefully, you know, da-da-da-da, right? He's like, okay, does it sound better here? Keep playing, hit that snare again. Oh, okay, yeah, all right, leave it there, right? And it would be like in the weirdest place, but it also was helping him develop like, wait a minute, so is this how they got the fat back snare? You know, like it was like one of those things. And because Zulu is, there's no moving parts like a real tape machine, there's no latency. So like you cannot do that with a roll tape. Like you can monitor off input, but skip the tape.
Yeah.
But you can't go through the tape and then go to the repro head and listen because there's a latency between, there's a gap between the two heads, right? And so because of that, there's like a flamming effect, right? And so instead, he was able to do it live. And what made it really cool is that eventually, what was even illa is that when he started to get more channels of Zulu, he would begin to let the band hear their individual instrument through Zulu while they played, which guess what? Influenced their playing. So rather than guessing what your stuff sounded like on tape, you was on tape from the giddy up. And that changed his entire approach to recording. It changed like, okay, how much gain can I use on this mic preamp? Can I get more aggressive? And so Alan began getting these sounds that were like incredible. And then how do we translate that to the hip hop format? Well, if you have only one stereo unit or pair of Zulu, you could put that across your two bus and monitor. So you could audition drum sounds that way. One of my favorite things to do is to take Zulu and put it right on the outputs of a drum machine. Or if I have a mic preamp available, I will go out of the drum machine into that and then into Zulu. You could do it with certain mixers too. And like kind of use the gain as a way to shape how Zulu behaves, right? And I don't audition drum samples anymore without it because I want to replicate what I think sounds best now rather than just pick a regular old sample and hope for the best. Or I'm also like a cagey old school cat. I make my own drums. And we got more on that to speak on because I actually have some drums for y'all.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I like to actually audition drums based on the way they sound through my chain. Right. And because I've integrated Zulu into all things that I do, I absolutely adore using Zulu that way to like audition live, latency free. What does this basic SP12 kick sound like when I crank it like this and set tape to be like low cassette tape machine and low cassette tape formula and no enhance and you know like what is that wow doing? And it's like, oh, and then I turn up one click of enhance and it cleans it up a little bit and now I got this magic sound that doesn't exist anywhere, right? But it still sounds like the drum machine a little bit. And you're like, like this kind of sounds like some of those beat tapes I find on YouTube or that I used to get handed as a kid, you know, like, yo, check my beat tape out or whatever. And like, that's power that you can't get in a compressor, that you can't get out of a plugin, is that just being able to make decisions in the moment. That is like one of the core tenets of record production, is making decisions in the moment, not just strategizing everything out. But when we're in that place where we're emotionally operating, where we're going, as some people call it, zen, you want somebody to play and feel something. So as a producer, when you're playing your drums, you want to feel something when you hit that snare. You want to, oh, yeah, like, you want to be making the stink face. And so this is a piece of equipment that automatically offers that to you without a penalty, which is a huge success story on so many levels for many different genres of music, but especially ours.
Yeah, man, that's amazing, and I can definitely attest to that. Having Zulu on the master bus, especially, gives me a lot more headroom. It gives me a lot more ability to kind of like really predict like how things are going to sound in the mix, but also like really it does influence the direction you can go in, because it has its tone, it has its flavor to it. So, I mean, I love that you shared that, and I want to kind of transition now actually to some questions from the community, since we're already talking about Zulu now. And we got a couple questions. I think Upbeat Media can post or pin post here on the questions, but we got a few here. Let me see here. I appreciate the super chats from y'all. Tyrone Sellers, appreciate you. Born Shamir, appreciate y'all, man. This has been an amazing show so far, man. There's definitely like so much here, but
Yeah.
Upbeat Media, can you please post the first question?
Yep. By the way, while they're posting that, I just want to make sure y'all know that Zulus are 20% off for the rest of the year on reverb.com, which, by the way, I do have a little bit of news to share with you.
Okay.
Right? Handsome Audio this year, just like a blink of an eye ago, became the first Black-owned company to be distributed by Reverb.
Wow.
So I don't mean that we're on Reverb. I mean that we have moved our operation to Chicago.
Wow.
And Reverb now runs our store. They handle our inventory. They interface with our customers. And we are now more of like a premier brand for them. So we are now part of their advertising calendar, their inner sales supports, their coding for the website. That was something that we've worked on literally for 2 years. And we pulled that off this year. Shout out to Tibor and the team, Joel, who's like one of the head people with media and sales. And, like we basically made that transition. So like this is part of the efforts to really get people to really adopt Reverb, which I think is like, if you had to pick a place to shop, support Reverb. They're not even a little company like that. They're actually $1 billion company. I wish I could say that they were poor, but they're not. They're also under the umbrella with Fender now. So like I'm in the same portfolio as Fender, and so like this is like a success. This is what success is looking like for a Black-owned business. Is not that we sold part of the business to somebody to get a cash payout, but actually that we are now that much further articulated as part of Reverb's greater web, and we're sold all over the world. So if you're looking in from UK, France, Italy, South Africa, China, you could buy our stuff on Reverb now.
Wow.
So anyways, let's get to this question. I don't want to keep them waiting.
Congratulations, man. Yeah, that's all good.
Thank you.
That's great news, man.
Thank you,
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you. Yep.
But yeah, the first question we got from Kevin M38 was, what future products are you looking into developing and selling? And what is the prime?
Yeah.
What is up with the prime?
All right. So let's start with the first thing. What I'm currently developing is, what am I not developing? I am currently developing and finishing a tube microphone preamp that entirely uses LMI transformers, a glass tube, along with two very special high voltage amps that are wrapped around it like a sandwich, for a company that I am a part of and a founder of called Command Save Audio with my boy Matt Weiss. And Matt Weiss is another person that has his own content on YouTube and also works for artists like Akon and Snoop. And Matt is a very old friend of mine from way back when, from Philly, and when I used to work in Philly. And so this tube amp preamp is called the Juice Box, and the Juice Box is designed to be a sub $1,000, probably more shy of like $700 tube mic preamp that has input and output transformers, 3 tube-like stages, one specifically a beautiful glass tube in there. It provides somewhere around 70 to 80 dB of gain and runs off a laptop-style power brick. It is exceptionally light, but extremely heavy sounding. It has variable tone and THD controls on it. It's revolutionary the way this thing operates. And that's one of the things I'm developing. I've also developed 3 tube microphones for a company called Circle Audio based out of Fort Lauderdale. Their mics are all over the internet now and on radio. People like Young Thug, my gosh, Cool and Dre have one. Fat Joe has been on the mic before. You name it. There's like a large, ever-growing portfolio of people that are using Circle Audio's technology. What did I do there? I developed the tube microphones. I developed the tube microphone power supply. You have a high voltage power supply that's the size of a credit card, basically. That runs on a very low voltage. It can even run on batteries. I developed that. I also developed the transformers for that company. Keith Ross is an amazing cat that runs that business. And I mean, Keith is like, his credits are like a mile long. He's been in everybody's studio, been on everybody's records, does a lot of work with a lot of famous people like Missy Elliott, Jill Scott, Black Thought, like bum, 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 bum. You could talk forever about Keith. Leona Lewis, right? Timbaland, Justin Timberlake. Yeah, I mean, Keith is the man, right? Mm-hmm. And so I developed mics for his company. And I can't quite announce what else I'm doing with a certain someone yet.
Okay.
But let's just say if you went to the top of the pyramid and met the guru up there, it would be that person. So, yeah. But I can't say a lot yet.
There you go.
As far as what is the Prime is an analog to analog converter. It is the passive device that uses my LMI10 transformers along with a rectifier diode clipping circuit and some inductor-based EQ in a very novel way that allows you to actually defeat part of the negative process of analog to digital conversion. And by the way, digital to analog conversion. Inside converters is a device called the decimator filter, which simplifies your audio, kind of like the way these people simplify hip hop, and it removes information to make it easier for the converter to get your stuff into the computer. You can actually look this up in the data sheets, right? And because of how these things operate, how strong they are of a filter. For example, like there's a cutoff around 20 to 22 kilohertz that is at a 60 dB knee in a decimator filter for you to record 44.1. Well, if you measure how powerful that is of a cut, it cuts all the way down to 1 dB. All of the THD and harmonics and things that give you audio character are attenuated by this filter. And so that's where some of the dryness comes from in our audio when it's recorded digitally. As much as people don't want to believe that, you should listen to live audio before you record it in the computer. Right? Like, don't even go into like Total Mix or something like that. Shout out to R&B. I love y'all stuff, right? But just listen to your beat machine off the mixer into your monitors, and you'd be like, wait a minute, this sounds different. Exactly. Right? So why is this not being replicated by this? Right? So what Prime does is by using the excitation of the transformers, the way that the coils are designed, the way that the internal circuit is balanced rather than single-ended, very high level nerd stuff, sorry. It actually extends the bandwidth of the audio and counters the decimator filter. So if you run signal through the computer back out and in without Prime, you can see where the audio rolls off, right? The same way it does in the decimator filter. You can literally see it. It's also one at the bottom for the bass. But then when you run it through Prime, that information, basically what Prime is doing is making stuff sound too good. So it offsets it so that when the cut happens, it gets back to normal. Yeah. So when we did our examples where we were shooting it out against Avid converters without Prime versus with, literally it was like one was a Xerox copy of the audio and the other one was the actual audio. And the one that was the actual audio was Prime. And that's why Scott Jacoby, shout out to Usona Studios, has 8 channels of Prime now. Wow. And he does not record without them. He does not mix without them because this man has Avid HDIOs which are some of the top flagship converters. And just like, shout out to Burrow, the transformer in the path of the converters, when you hook it up the right way, does some magic stuff. What I did is I used 2 transformers for 1 channel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what up with Prime. What are the negatives of Prime? It's extremely difficult to fabricate. So we're working on trying to make it easier to get out and put into stock, because I mean, it take way too long to make, but they sound fantastic, but they're also meant to be a budget piece. So we're just trying to eliminate some of the pitfalls of that. And then what was the other piece of the question?
The other question was, what's a electronic circuit project that you'd recommend someone start relatively?
Let me plug myself. I have released a project kit from LMI called the LMI DIY TX1 kit, which allows you to use 2 of the transformers from LMI Prime, right? And some resistors and some caps. There's only let's see, there's 2 resistors. There's 2 resistors, 2 capacitors, and 2 transformers, and then the rest is wire, right? And you can make something that actually processes your audio passively with very little loss, if none at all, right? Like without the pot installed, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 in and out, right? But when you add the T attenuator, which by the way is really like a really old school way of turning the volume down, you use the transformer to turn down the audio, which is pretty dope. You can see that in like the 1176. By doing that, it allows you to hit the transformer harder. And then the coils, because the entire circuit is fully balanced, you receive all of the benefits of all the added inductance, all of the extended frequency response. It just sounds absolutely gorgeous. And you can buy this kit. You can buy the transformers for the kit on the LMI Reverb store.
Okay.
You can buy the circuit boards from me. I even sell some of the parts, like the capacitors. I have enclosures I can recommend to you. If you know how to use a drill and you know how to solder, you can be making stuff that makes your beat sound better. And the transformers are $100 a piece. You need 2 to make 1 channel. So for $200 plus a PCB and some parts for like a couple of dollars, you have an audio processor, right? And if you know how to solder, it'll probably take you about 15 minutes to a half hour to do the whole thing.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
Very, very simple.
Okay.
And we can we can talk further about that. My information hopefully will be shared somewhere so people can get to me.
I'll put a link in the video description for this so we can get to that. But that's amazing to have that available to like start immersing yourself into just building and working with electronics, man. That's awesome.
Uh-oh, my brother's on here.
Is he?
Shout out to Young Guru.
Oh,
he popped in.
Salute, fam.
Shout out my brother. Love you, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
We got enough time for a couple more questions. This might be a quicker one. Guy West wants to know if you'll be willing to if you're selling the empty 500 series chassis.
Yes, we will be soon. We are actually migrating the assembly of that. As you know, I had to move out of one facility back home, so I'm working from home now. That's why I'm in my laundry room instead of my office right now. So we're actually shifting the manufacturing of the Happy Reel, that's what it's called, to downstate New York. And then once we get down there, we're going to have our team down there begin assembling those. So, because we no longer have the space to assemble things here in Syracuse. So we're going to be moving things downstate, and we will have plenty of units available for people. So hopefully within about the next 30 days or so, hopefully before Christmas, we'll be able to get more back in stock. And that way you can enjoy that technology again. Thanks for asking.
Amazing. One last question from Tyrone Sellers. If you can get that up there, Upbeat Media. This might be a quick one as well. Let's see. We got the next question.
Oh, Guru said the build is way less than 15 minutes. Yes, but hey.
Everybody ain't Young Guru though, that might be 15. No, I hear that. That's awesome. Just if it's 15 minutes, that gives you like something like instant gratification.
It's very relaxing. Yeah,
that's amazing. Tyrone Sellers says he would love to know why his Zulu 500 series won't work in the Cranbourne chassis. I think that's what he's saying.
Well, I've actually been in contact with Cranbourne about this, and in engineering, we try to work together collaboratively. So I'm not going to sit there and point fingers at anybody. And, I know what I have done with my company, and I know that they have obviously developed something very novel and special with the Cranborn stuff. Basically, there is circuitry inside the Cranborn platform that is designed to intelligently allow you to switch back and forth between the AD to DA section of it. And because I wasn't actually given the full picture of it, my only guess is that there's something in there that doesn't get along with the current iteration of Zulu.
Gotcha.
So because of that, you experience a larger level loss than normal. But the good news is that A, Prime works perfectly in the Cranborn platform, but B, I have actually redesigned the output stage of Zulu 500. So we are now going to be prototyping that and testing it. I'm going to have to get some people to volunteer to try it out with the Cranborn. I'm sure somebody will just clamor immediately to try one. But what we're going to be doing is adding a couple of things to encourage not only that platform, but also just to improve the overall performance of the device in various settings. So hopefully by end of year, we'll have that MK2 out. All previous versions of Zulu will be fine, right? If you're using Zulu 500 in any standard type of 500 series chassis that's VPR certified or just, well, it doesn't have special switching technology, just put it like that. Any non-Cranborn chassis right now, it works perfectly fine. So this one particular issue is a bit of an anomaly for us, but I am willing to address it. But my attitude is if I'm going to go back in there, I might as well improve things a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the approach to it. But we still hope to offer the same sonic bliss, the same sonic thumbprint, maybe a little slightly better, you know. So if anything, just buy some more of the new ones and you'll have all the flavors in the world.
Right.
And you know, so that's that. But that is the reason. Basically, there's something in there that remotely jumps back and forth, and because of that, I think there's something in there that has to do with the way our balancing circuit interfaces with theirs. And if it's not detecting it correctly, then there's a mismatch. So it's unfortunate. But I mean, things like this happen all the time. I mean, I would love to say that we're taking our wounds and licking them, but there are plenty of companies that have had issues for different reasons, where like 500 series modules interact weirdly, or if they're next to each other, or all that kind of stuff.
Listen,
So
I worked in music tech and software. This stuff happens all the time in software. So that's yeah, that doesn't surprise me that at somewhere along the way someone didn't communicate something or some requirement at some point, and we have to make some iterations on it. So I appreciate you providing the transparency on that, because it came up and some of the folks in the community were asking specifically about that. So I want to make sure that the information came right from the horse's mouth. Like the man that actually builds them can tell us what's real about that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
I know we're running long on time, but I do see a lot of super chats that I would love to answer, at least a few of the recent ones.
Yeah,
because I see people.
We got a couple minutes before we transition, and I do see room at the top. Let's get to room at the tops here. What's the advantage of Zulus if we are already recording to reel tape? That's a great one to answer for sure.
So this is a question I actually enjoy a lot. So the idea behind Zulu is that it can emulate any tape machine. And why is that important? Because different tape machines have different sounds, right? So it's kind of like when somebody releases a new sampling workstation, the first thing people say is, well, can you do the sound of this? Or can you do the sound of that? If you just buy the one thing that can do the one thing, then you're stuck with that sound for everything, right? And if you go and look at the curves of different machines over the years, a Tascam machine sounds different than a Studer. A Revox sounds different than an MCI. An MCI sounds different than a 3M machine or a Stevens, right? Or a Scully for that matter. So what we set out to do was first nail the sound of a reel-to-reel machine from Japan, like the one that I grew up on, a Tascam multi-track, 24-track 2-inch machine. We definitely had to nail the sound of a Swiss machine, like the Studer that's at our HQ, A810. And we also had the lower fidelity Tascam 4-track machines that use cassette, right? And all of those sounds are extremely valuable for hip hop music. There isn't like one tape machine that just rules all of them, right? Like if you're recording on a Studer 827 or an A800 for that matter, well, that's not the sound of D&D Studios, right? If you're recording on a higher end MCI machine, well, that's not necessarily the sound of Enter the Wu-Tang, right? Like, so like what I tried to do was give you all those sounds, right? And that way, when you get into your Wu-Tang Clan mode, when you get into your DJ Premier arc, when you get into your Pimp C arc or your Billy Hume, right? Like you get to actually take advantage of that, right? I also, in the tape formulas piece, made it where you can bend reality with Zulu. So for example, when you're looking at Motown and they're using those Maestro 3-track machines, right? And they're using the early Scotch formulas that distorted the minute you breathed on them, right? There's a sound to that that's really dope, but also that's kind of like the sound of the Black Keys. You know what I mean? So like, it's not like it doesn't have a purpose or a use, right? If you like Ampex 456, a lot of great records were recorded on Ampex 56. If you like 499, where you're listening to Capital Punishment, you love the way that sounds, that's part of it, right? And this is like kind of like that overlap where it's like, okay, now I can take a reel-to-reel deck and put a cassette tape on it, which is physically impossible, right? And that's part of the issue there, is that now you can make all these iterations that never existed before, right? Guru saying 499 was Baseline Studios. Okay, well, what if I could take 499 and put that in a cassette machine, right? Like a knock, you know what I mean? Like that's impossible. But because we were able to kind of figure out a way to like independently control those variables and merge them, you can pretty much emulate any machine in the world. I mean, literally, you give me 5-10 minutes and I just sit there and just turn knobs and like adjust levels, and there you go. I think there was one more. I think there was one more I saw that was really. Let me see. Let me scroll back up. Guru wants me to talk about the power in the 500 series chassis, and I know that
that's a deep one. I think we'd have to come back and do that.
I'm trying not to get was a 459 Capital Punishment was 4. Was it still +9 tape for the 459? Ampex 459. Interesting. I've never seen that formula before. 459. Is it still +9? Huh. Nope. No, that's a motor for the. So it must not be Ampex. It must be something else. I wonder if it was Grandmaster. I believe it was around that time. It was 9. It was +9 tape though, for the like pretty much everybody was on that for a long time. GP9. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, +9 tape. Yeah, GP9 was gorgeous too. Yeah. All right. So before we wrap, because you're gonna kick me out. Okay, you about to turn the lights out.
Listen, bro.
To cut the lights out in the studio. Okay. I want y'all to go to handsomeaudio.com. If we could put that up on the screen, because this is something y'all can all take, right? I want you to go to handsomeaudio.com and go to the mailing list tab, right? And sign up. I'll go on the after show for sure. I want you to go to handsomeaudio.com and go to the mailing list tab. It would help if I knew how to spell today.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up now.
And on there is a tab for mailing list, right? If you sign up for this mailing list with a real email address, you will receive a link that is downloadable of the first offering from Handsome Audio, where Todd and myself have developed sample packs using Zulu, along with the analog equipment in our studio at HQ. Todd has an amazing setup there with Lynx converters and Neves and everything else under the sun. And we have processed these sounds of classic old school drum machines, right? For trademark purposes, we can't name them. But basically what we've done is we're giving you sample packs that are pre-cooked, pre-seasoned to perfection. And they use the gate trick too, right? So what we're starting out is with the first collection is called King of Kicks, which is a callback to the old karate flicks, the kung fu movies, right?
Right.
And so it's just all these old school analog sine wave based and early drum machine based kick drums that are like hitting Zulu really hot. They're getting round, they're getting fat, they're getting thumpy. And I want you to download these and use them in your productions, because I mean, They're not only there, they've been, they've been normalized to have like the most dynamic range, but also the most flavor. And this is just a great way to get introduced to Zulu. I wish we could do before and afters, but every time I turn around, somebody's taking an old trademark and revamping it. So
right.
Maybe this is best that they're not labeled, but it's just kick 1, kick 2,
Okay.
that kind of thing. But
yeah,
when I tell you that they're like, I'm using them on a rock session right now, but they're hip hop drums, but I'm download that, get your link, that way we can make announcements to y'all and tell you when we have more sales and new products dropping. And definitely also, this has inspired me to get back online on YouTube, because I know during the pandemic, people used to tune in.
Right.
So if y'all want, I will start getting back on and start showing y'all what I do with Zulu.
We need that, bro. We need that. We need that.
It's about that time.
Yes, sir. Langston, brother. This has been an amazing chat, man. And I really appreciate the knowledge. I appreciate the culture. I appreciate the passion, bro. Like, this was great. I know that the audience got a lot from it. I would love to have you back on the show at some point, man, and we can just chop it up some more, get deeper into some of these topics. We didn't have enough time today, man, but I really appreciate everything, bro. This has been amazing.
That's awesome. And again, like I said, take your butts over to Reverb and support a Black-owned business. We don't sell. $425 is the normal price, but right now we're $340 a channel while supplies last. And we offer credit.
Y'all better go.
You can't beat that. You better go get that. If you got a firm, you better go get that. Yup.
Yes.
And make sure y'all let Altruwest know what y'all think of them drums, bro.
Yes.
Y'all got to do it. Y'all got to do it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Gedatnar. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate you, brother. And yeah, man, I hope y'all had a great time with this show, man. I hope y'all got a lot out of this. Once again, thank you to Langston for coming through and sharing the wisdom and knowledge, man. And this is the first of many to come, man. So I'm excited for the direction of the platform. I'm excited for Langston and what he has coming up. So we're going to be looking out for stuff that he's got on the horizon. I know he said some other folks is getting involved. I think we might see some of them, but we'll see. But I appreciate y'all, man, for tapping in. Until next time, I want to tell y'all peace and God bless. We finna get over to Twitch for the after show. So if y'all want to hang out and chop it up some more, we're going to do that, man. So appreciate y'all, man.
All right, peace out. Thank you for having me, y'all. God bless. Be safe. Good night.
Appreciate you, man.